If you want to be coached by someone that podiumed at the first ever MX Bikes LAN event, then click the Discord link in the description below, follow the steps on screen to book a one-on-one session with me now. Anyway, enjoy the video. Alright, what's going on, boys? Welcome back to a brand new video. Today, in this video, I'm going to be giving you my top 10 tips that I have learned after 4,000 hours in this game. Alrighty, so tip 1 is how to handle the braking bumps better. What you want to do is you want to be leaning back over the bumps and use the throttle to keep the bike level. The best thing to do in braking bumps is to keep the bike level at all times, and this will stop the nose dives and you looping out and stuff like that. You want to be using the throttle to keep the front end up, and that will always level the bike out. As you can see from on screen, the bike says level at all times, and once you learn how to modulate the throttle and keep the bike level, this transfers over to any braking bumps, no matter how big they are. This isn't setup dependent. I know a lot of you may be thinking that it's just a really good setup that I'm using. That is not the case. This is a trick you can learn to help with any big braking bumps, no matter what setup you have on. This will always help you get through them. Tip 2 is use a higher gear in braking bumps. As you can see, if I do these braking bumps in gear 1, the engine brake is just too much, which means the bike is trying super hard to slow down, which means the bike is just sitting there revving out, and that makes it so much harder to control. As you can see, the back end goes flying up in the air. And now, here, we do it in gear 3, a higher gear, and just look how much better it controls. Again, using the tip before, using the throttle to keep the bike level in turn with a higher gear, it makes braking bumps so much easier and so much smoother. This is pretty self-explanatory. Tip number 3, put effort into consistency. Not a lot of people put time and effort into being consistent nowadays. Everyone goes hot lap, hot lap, hot lap, I must hot lap. That does help, but you want to be learning consistency as well. That is what I focused on. That is what I focused on when I first got the game, was just learning how to be consistent. Me and Jake, we used to literally get into a lobby together, and we would put a 10-15 minute timer on our phones, and we would literally just try not to crash for 10-15 minutes, whether that meant being going slow, not pushing, just being smooth and consistent. And that's how we learned to play the game, basically. And then one lap speed and just speed in general comes with playing the game. So don't get the game 5 hours, get a pro track, think I can't hot lap, I can't qualify. Do not worry about that. Just be consistent, be smooth, and the speed comes with time. So tip number 4 is practice one lap speed. Like I said in the last tip, once you spent maybe 10-15 hours practicing your consistency, practicing being smooth, you can then focus on speed, which is one lap speed. So practice your one lap speed, keep getting in lap after lap, keep resetting, lower your fuel if you need to, and if you make a little mistake or you crash, go back to pits, then hit the finish line again, and just try to get a good lap. I'm not saying try and qualify for pro. Do not stress yourself out. The amount of people I know that have 10-15 hours and are stressing out that they can't qualify, do not worry. Just do a time that you feel is good. Just do a lap where you don't make mistakes, where a lap where you're not crashing, stuff like that. Just practice going fast, Keep being consistent, try not to crash obviously, but try and hit everything as fast as you possibly can in a controlled way. That's how you practice one lap speed. There's no point just throwing it into corners that you're not going to get through. Still try and be consistent, but also, hit everything as fast as you can. Get comfortable with going fast, get comfortable with going as quick as you can, and yeah, then you feel comfortable when it comes to qualifying times. If you want to try and get into the whole MyMXB race scene, then you feel comfortable when it comes to qualifying. So practice your one lap speed, and like I said, don't overdo it. Don't hammer into every rut and try and possibly go as fast as you can. Still be smooth, still be controlled, just hit everything as fast as you can, basically. Alright then, tip 5 is going to be flat corner control. So as you can see here on screen, this is leaning forwards around a flat corner. I feel like most people know this by now, but a lot of people don't, and it might be something new to some of you guys. So make sure you're leaning forwards on flat corners. As you can see, not leaning forwards here. The back end is all over the place, doesn't really give you a lot of traction. Because the front end is so high, because it's not leaning forwards, it squats the rear end a lot, and that makes it really slide out. This is another angle here from behind. It makes the back end really uncontrollable when you're not leaning forwards. So yeah, make sure you're leaning forwards, and just smooth throttle as well, so you're not wheel spinning. Just smooth throttle, leaning forwards a bit. It'll get you around flat corners perfectly. Alright, so tip number 6 is going to be counter leaning. Knowing when to counter lean, when not to counter lean, things like that. So this is not counter lean. I've put the controller overlay on for you guys as well. If you look at the right stick on the controller overlay, you can see that I'm not counter leaning. I'm leaning forwards a little bit, but I'm not counter leaning, and this is counter leaning. You can see my stick is being moved over counter leaning. So as you can see here, it leans the bike over way too much. It then hits the inside rut and it front tucks. So you don't want to be counter leaning. As you can see here, this is the counter leaning lean angle. So if I was counter leaning, you can see how much the body weight is leaned over and how much the bike is scraping the floor. This is not counter leaning. This is just leaning forwards. You can see how much higher the bar is and how far away we are from dragging our bars. So do not counter lean in ruts that hold you. Alrighty, so tip number 7 is going to be muscle memory. Try not to change, your setup, trying to change your bike, trying to change your settings all the time. I'm not saying don't change them ever, but if you are going to change them, don't change them too much and don't keep changing things around. You want to get used to something. Your mind needs to get used to something being the same. So if you keep everything the same and you just sort of get comfortable and used to what you're using, you will make that work for you and you will start to feel really comfortable. And about changing bike, try not to change bike too much. It isn't a massive deal, but try not to change bike too much because each bike has different characteristics. Each bike, it rides different. So the more you change things, the more you change your bike around, the more your mind has to get used to it again and get comfortable back on it again. So try not to change things around too much. Get that muscle memory to stick and get comfortable on, your same settings, same bike, things like that. Tip 8 is going to be learn proper scrub technique. Everyone scrubs differently. Everyone does it their own way. So I'm not going to, try and explain and, overcomplicate it for you. But what you want to basically do is lean the bike over as much as you can on the lip, lean forwards on the lip, and just try to stay as low as you can. Like I said, everyone scrubs differently, so figure out how you like to do it. Just get into a testing, get to a jump that you can scrub. This jump that I've shown you on screen now is a perfect jump to try and scrub. But just learn proper scrub technique. Just focus on scrubbing for a little bit and just find out what works for you and how you can stay the lowest. Tip number 9 is more of a beginner kind of tip. So leaning forwards and leaning back, sort of when you're wanting to be doing it. And as you can see on screen here, you're going to be leaning forwards in the corners, leaning back over the braking bumps, and then leaning forwards again when you're back in the rut. Now I know this is kind of self-explanatory, but trust me, being an MX Bikes coach, you do get asked a lot, when should I be leaning back, when should I be leaning forwards, things like that. So for the people that have maybe a bit more experience, it's kind of, it could be self-explanatory, but some people do, struggle with when to lean forwards and when to lean back, which is fine. So what you want to do is you want to be leaning back over the braking bumps. That sort of keeps the back end squatted a little bit, keeps the front end a little bit lighter as well. And then when you're in the ruts and in the corners, that's when you want to be leaning forwards, put some pressure on that front end again, keeping that front end nice and stable and tracking through that whole corner. And then again, come through the braking bumps. Then you want to be leaning back through them all again. Again, it keeps the bike nice and stable, using the throttle technique as well that we learned in step 1 or 2. And then again, as you can see here, leaning forwards, coming out of the corner, giving you the best drive so you don't loop out. Alright, here we are then, the final tip. Tip number 10 is learn harder tracks. I know a lot of people are very, very guilty of this. People spend too many hours on tracks like Forest and Club and Practice and stuff like that. Try different tracks. After 10 hours on the game, you don't need to be on Forest and Club. At that point, you're just learning the track. You're not learning how to play the game. Download some harder tracks. I'm not saying, make a shop account and spend money on the game. Just get harder tracks. There's loads of tracks on MXC Mods that are hard and that will test you. But don't spend too long on these stock tracks. But yeah, they are all the tips. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this. My last tips and tricks video was over a year and a bit ago now, so I feel like it's very, very needed to have a new and updated one. And hopefully there's some new tips in here for you guys that you guys can learn. But yeah, hope you guys did enjoy. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.